Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 903A, and today's date is February 25th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The U.S. Economy is Contracting as Business is the Worst Since 2008. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I just placed an interview with John Rappaport on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, so you can go right over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight, bring you right over to the channel, and you can see the interview there, or you can come over to the X22Report.com site. You can scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there, or you can go to NewsSentinel.com. Same thing. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, as we look at all the economic indicators in the economy, we are realizing that most of the sectors of the economy are whispering in our ear, telling us we're heading towards this major collapse. Now, we've been in this situation for quite a while. Remember, the economy was created by the central bank. It is a central bank economy. Bubbles have been blown up. The American people are sitting on the sidelines. And this is why, when they're continually telling everyone that we're in this recovery, when you really look at different aspects of the economy like housing, retail, manufacturing, we see most of it hasn't gone anywhere. I mean, they're telling us it's an incredible recovery, but when you look and you go back in history, it's basically flatline. When indicators drop and they move up just a little bit, they tell us it's the new normal. They basically recreate the story of what the economy is supposed to look like in a recovery, because it's very hard to explain that, like the Baltic Dry Index, for instance, we were averaging around 1,000, 1,100 points, 1,200 points, 900 points, and we're down to 300 points. How do you explain this? That everything is fine? So what they do is they say, okay, here's the new bottom. We moved up 20 points. Everything's fine. See, we're increasing right now. The initial jobless claims, I mean, they're hitting all-time new lows. They're saying no one is applying for initial jobless claims. Well, what happens a lot is that all these people that got laid off in the past have either gotten part-time jobs, and if you don't work a certain number of hours and you get laid off in that part-time job, and each state is different, you can't apply for it. But we've been seeing mass layoffs. It's not like 5 people here, 10 people here. We're talking 900, 1,000, 8,000, 10,000 people at a time. And they're telling us that no one is being laid off and no one is applying. And it makes no sense. We're seeing the food industry, the NRA Restaurant Performance Index, it has dropped dramatically. But food service employees, it topped out at the end of 2015. And now we're going to see that follow the same decline as the Restaurant Performance Index. Because as we know, traffic into the restaurants is slowing. Profits are starting to decline. And we're going to see that we don't need you to work right now. We don't have the customers. We see Best Buy right now. Their revenues have declined in the first half of the year, but they're saying, don't worry, the rest of the year will be fine. No, it won't. How all of a sudden is it going to improve? What, everyone's going to get jobs full-time, making a lot more than they're making right now? When we look at, let's see, retail declining, more stores are closing, we see more layoffs coming, Restaurant Performance Index is dropping. How in the world do they believe that all of a sudden things are just going to improve out of nowhere, especially retail? We're heading into the spring, summer. They don't do that well. If they didn't do well in the holiday season, guess what? They're done. We see Kohl's. They're going to be closing about 18 stores. Caterpillar. They're combining two divisions, and guess what? They're going to have to lay off more people. Halliburton is cutting 5,000 jobs, 8% of the workforce. Whirlpool just came out and said they're going to have to lay off. We don't have those numbers yet, but they're going to be laying off people. Kimray is going to be laying off 10% of its workforce. Lexmark is laying off 550 people. We're seeing more and more layoffs. We're seeing a contraction in the economy. It's not expanding. It's contracting because there's no business out there. Now, yes, there's business going on, but it's shrinking. It's getting worse every single day. Now, in the corporate media, they're telling us the durable goods, this is incredible. It's surged to new heights. Now, durable goods imploding, and this is like the big sale ticket items like dryers, washers, refrigerators. They imploded in December by 5%. They revised it to negative 4.6%. And now they came out and said durable goods in January rose by 4.9%. Now they only expected a 2.9% increase, and it was just incredible. Well, there are certain things that have happened here. They include defense, aircraft parts into this. If you strip that out, what do you see? Well, it doesn't look as good. And we see that when you strip this out, the actual shipments of core capital goods declined by negative 0.4%. So it's not as incredible as the corporate media is making it seem. And if you actually look at the durable goods and you strip out aircraft parts for the war that's going on all throughout the world, you see that durable goods, they have been in the negative territory since the beginning of 2015. And in 2016, it's still in the negative territory. It has not improved whatsoever. And to give you an example of where it used to be, durable goods used to be in the 15% range. They pumped it up right after the collapse of 2008, 2009, all the way up to the 15 to 20% range, and we've seen it slide ever since. And what they're doing is they're doing whatever they possibly can to make it seem like everything is absolutely fine. Now, when we look at this, it has really gone nowhere. It's flatline. It's in negative territory. And if you go from a negative number, like negative 10 to negative 5, is that really that great? No, it isn't. But they try to make you think it is. We see the subprime auto loan. It's completely melting down. Delinquencies are up to 3 or 4 months. People are behind in payments. And what we're seeing right now is the delinquency rate for subprime borrowers. It has hit the highest level since 2009. In fact, we are not too far away from totally smashing through the previous highs that were set during the last crisis. Remember, these loans are being repackaged, sold off to investors as solid investments. We saw this in the subprime real estate market. They're doing the same thing, but in the auto loan market. This is going to be a complete disaster. It's not going to work out because we know how the real estate subprime market worked out. It was a disaster. Now, the Kansas City Fed, the composite index, has not been positive now for 13 months. February's print was at negative 12. It is the worst since 2009. And the last time we saw this, the Fed unleashed QE3. So we are worse than that point in time. Actually, we're approaching 2008, 2009 numbers here. And what we're seeing is business is off at levels not seen since the recession of the early 80s. We're starting off to a very slow year. We're seeing shipments, they're down by 22% compared to last year. Margins are decreasing. And it's getting worse. Number of employees has now fallen for the 14 months in a row. It only fell 13 in 2008 and 2009. We're already past that point. It's getting worse and worse as time goes on. The Baltic Dry Index hovering at 325 right now. Really not moving anywhere. It's moving up a little bit, but it is in the 300s. This is absolutely awful. Yes, I know the people are out there. Oh my God, it's up, it's up. It's up where? Okay, let's see. After 12 or 13 consecutive times it has moved up, we went from what? 297 to 325? Last year at this time, where were we? We were at 1,000. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. And the FDIC right now is warning us that the credit risk is growing. And I mentioned this in previous reports. The credit market shows us what is happening, and the credit market is falling apart right now. When you look across the 6,182 FDIC insured institutions, provisions have been on the rise for 6 consecutive quarters, and they jumped sharply in the fourth quarter, rising to $3.8 billion in total. And the FDIC is putting out this warning, letting everyone know there's going to be problems in the banking system. And we know that the FDIC, they don't have the insurance money to handle a complete bank default. And this is why they created the bail-in documents. Now, as this economy moves and chugs along, which it really isn't, we realize that because of the corporate media, because of the central bank, they're continually trying to convince us that the U.S. economy is a strong service-based economy. We don't need manufacturing. We don't need it at all. It's fine. And what we see is that manufacturing right now accounts for about 12% of the U.S. economy, and it employs about 9% of the workforce because we've lost all our manufacturing. So overall, they're depending on a strong service economy because manufacturing is done. So basically what they're saying is don't worry about manufacturing, even though it's declining. We need to look at the service industry portion of the economy. But what's very interesting about this is that Evan Cohen, Senior Vice President at the Dallas Fed, he gave a presentation that showed that manufacturing contraction preceded service contractions in the run-up of the past 2 recessions. When the service sector growth begins to dwindle, so still growth, but slower growth after the manufacturing sector has already begun to shrink. That's the point he called prelude to recession. And when the service sector begins to actually shrink, that event marks that what officials call the beginning of the recession. And guess what we've been talking about? The manufacturing sector is declining. The service sector is now declining following the manufacturing sector. We are in big trouble, everyone. We're heading in that direction. The bubbles are popping. Now we see the United States, John Kerry's out there, and they're warning that no one should buy the Russian bonds. Russia is looking to sell about $3 billion of its foreign bonds. And this is their first international issuance since the West imposed sanctions. And basically, the United States is trying to stop anyone from going and purchasing these bonds. And what they're doing is they're putting pressure on Russia. This is exactly what's happening right now. They placed sanctions on them. They lowered the oil prices. This is part of the agenda. of lowering the oil prices. There's many different parts to it. This is one of them, to put pressure on Russia to get out of all those areas where the United States doesn't want them. And that's pretty much it. And as we know, Russia was trying to get all the oil producing countries together to put a freeze on the output. And it looks like this didn't happen. So right now, it looks like oil prices are going to stay very low for this entire year, maybe through 2017, as pressure is continually put on Russia. And what we're seeing right now is that they're going to continually do this. They need the oil prices very low in the United States to help out the corporations, to keep things working smoothly, because think about what they've done already. They lowered the interest rates. They're keeping oil prices very low. We have people moving from manufacturing jobs into service sector jobs. Service sector is now feeling the pain. We're going to see more layoffs in the service sector jobs, and we're going to have a complete disaster here in the United States. And that is going to be the collapse. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.